When I was 16 years old, I was obsessed with pickup, looks maxing, and attracting girls. I recognized it, okay? And while I did have other interests in my life, like gardening with my vegetable garden, school, I was really an amazing student, really. Running competitively, I really have a future in that field, in that sport, or learning languages, which is why I can speak English the way that I can do right now. Dating and being attractive was my biggest fundamental need, like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So I started to watch content on what a high value man does, right? Like creators like Hamza, Iman Gatsi, etc. came up. And the topic of money and success always came up as a high value man provides for his family, right? He's a provider. So naturally, I started to watch content on business and how important it is for a high value man to make money, right? And that used to get me thinking about my family. My family was in a tough time financially. Our truck that we used for the family business started to break down constantly, and it led to a lot of stress for my family. Now, pair that with me going to high school and seeing how little guys and even some teachers care about it, made me start to have this kind of countdown timer to exploding and deeply asking myself, what am I doing here? Why am I wasting my time in school? If I can make money from a business and help my family, how can I be so chilled obsessing about cold approaching women and looks maxing when I know my family is so stressed for money? What an absolute moron I am for not taking money seriously right now that I need it the most. I was just a childish, egotistical fuck who only cared about getting love and pussy while his family is out there thinking how they're gonna make ends meet. So I knew I had to be a man and care about what was the most important thing, money. Or at least that's what I thought. So for me at the time, lack of money equals stress for family, and I don't like that. So if I reverse that and I think about a surplus of money equals that my family is at peace, that's something I do like, right? So that's when I became obsessed with money. My priorities changed. I left it all basically for pursuing money. I dropped out of high school at 16 years old. I left my running training camp. I stopped cold approaching girls and watching content about pickup and game and stuff like that. I stopped working on my vegetable garden. I stopped talking to my quote unquote friends. I really went all in. I took decisions that nobody respected, supported, or believed in, and for the next 3 years, I spent my life working and essentially failing and failing and failing many, many, many times in different businesses. This was arguably the darkest chapter in my entire life. And I had this memory very ingrained in my mind where I finished a session of about 100 cold calls, right? Or what I thought was 100 cold calls. And I was finishing it almost tearing up because of so many people telling me to fuck off. This is just how cold calling is a lot of the times. Then going downstairs to get some food, and my mom gave me all of this shit for dropping out of high school. I have no friends to talk to. I have no family to talk to. I have basically no one else apart from working 10 hours a day in my business after finishing my workday in my job. Or roughly like that. The thing is, like, I was just working as much as possible after my job. It was just me, the work, and I. I lived honestly in this kind of brooded down unhappiness. I didn't consider myself as a happy individual at that time. And even though I didn't feel sad, or I didn't thought I was sad, and I could smile and laugh, I subconsciously thought I'll be happy when I'm rich. And even myself now, and I'm thinking about this, it just makes me think about all this. It makes me honestly tear a bit on, like, how did I do it, right? So after years of failure after failure, I stopped thinking about, or I actually stopped wanting to be rich. And even though I knew I wanted to be successful, I just deep down didn't think it was possible. I thought if I can make just $3,000 a month, that's all I need. I don't need anything else. I don't need more. I just need $3,000 a month. So by now, in this time in the story, I got this new job, a food delivery app. Now, I didn't thought much of it. I just wanted to have some flexibility to work in my business. But as I started to work and talk to my coworkers, I started to hear these guys making a lot of money, more than I could ever imagine. And they actually showed me with proof how much they were actually making. I was hooked at this point. I started to work long hours. I put all my effort that I was putting in my business to the delivery app. And I made it. I made 60,000 pesos in a month. That's basically 3.5k USD dollars a month living in Mexico. I had just made the most amount of money in a month in my life. And throughout all this time, I had given my family as much money as I could. I was supporting them in the way that I could. When I left my security guard job, that was my first job, my first ever job, and they gave me a compensation for staying there more than 6 months or 3 months. They gave me a lot of money that I didn't even think twice and gave it all to my family. And even though after that point I wasn't helping them with that much money, it was just as much as I could, I was doing it. I was giving money to my family, which was the main reason why I started all of this. But this was the first time I could really start to do it properly, right? So fast forward a few months of making this amount of money, I started to see the veil pulled down, or being pulled down in front of my eyes. I started to actually see money for what it truly is. I no longer, I don't even know if this is the right word, but like pedestalize it. And by this time, I had already moved out of my parents' home for about 4 months. I had met my girlfriend that, she has been with me since I was completely broke, essentially, before I started to get into delivery app or anything like that. And I started to ask myself, is this what I was chasing all along? I started to see that even though money is important, it doesn't guarantee you friends and dating success. And while, I do have a girlfriend, there's a lot of guys who make a lot of money and they don't have a girlfriend. They can attract girls. In fact, I met my girlfriend when I was that broke. And of course, it doesn't guarantee happiness, right? I realized that those require separate, active work to improve and to get your life to a next level. And I started to swing the opposite extreme. I was starting to shit on money, dismiss it as not important. I achieved the things that I wanted to make money for, which is, to help my family. And I started to realize that I didn't need a lot of money to help my family. The goal, even though my first goal was to retire my family, now after years, I realized that retiring someone could actually not be the right thing, because what are they going to do with their lives? They need something to work for, something to work to get. And if I just give them all the money, that can probably be not the right thing to do. So the goal is not to retire them. It is to alleviate their financial stress. And why not give them a lot of fucking money, right? But I don't need to, retire them completely, because I don't even know if that's gonna be counterintuitive. But I didn't know it back then, and I basically swung the complete opposite extreme to the, to the point where I was obsessed and I thought I needed to make $10,000 a month. Otherwise, I wouldn't be happy. I needed to be a millionaire, or, a millionaire lifestyle to be happy. I started to see people who chase materialistic things, who want the Miami penthouse, who want the lavish vacations, who want the car, as surface level people, people who just care about, materialistic things, who don't care about deeper things. I thought they were shallow, I started to decrease the amount of time that I was working in the food delivery app. I started to go more to the gym because my physique was so part of this time, to be honest. And I started to do more of the habits that I knew I needed to do and I wanted to do, but I was too busy because I was focused on making money. Started to go on side quests and adventures, and I really decreased the importance that money had in my life. But there was one day where I went to deliver food to a very beautiful apartment complex in a pretty wealthy area of my city, or in my city. I went there thinking, these people, they're just materialistic. I don't care about these people. They're just shallow. I don't care. But then I started to go up in the elevator and I started to see the view and imagine myself living in here and how good it would be. But this time I didn't see it from a materialistic point of view. I saw this from a wholesome, progress making point of view. That actually got me thinking. And I started to realize that, like, this new insight that I have, that it's my most recent insight after years of chasing and then repelling, making it not important, and then attracting it naturally without much effort into it or much, stress into it. I realized that money isn't a savior, but it isn't the enemy either. Material things like an apartment in a high place, for example, or for me, a 700cc touring motorbike that I would like to have for going on experiences and side quests and traveling. They actually stopped being about shallow flexing or materialism and became wholesome milestones of personal progress and experience. My conclusion is that money is simply another pillar of individual growth, a tool to enhance life quality and essentially enable adventures. But it's completely separate from your self-worth. But still something cool to work on and to grow in. For me, it got to a point where when I think about money, I put money in its place. I don't pedestalize it, nor do I shit on it. I know it's an important thing in my life, but that I don't need extreme amount of money. I don't need materialistic things, but they could be nice to have. Not as though they are increasing my self-worth, even though it could be in a sense, but very little. If we think about this, and like, if I'm trying to go from, this is a topic that I think about a lot. It's just like SMV, the sexual market value, right, of a man. Making more money could theoretically make you increase your self-worth, but it's fractionally after a certain point, right? I see nice things as things, that's basically it, things that enable me to experience adventures and living a higher quality life or lifestyle. And basically this is arguably the most fulfilled I've ever been with money, the most clear I've been with money, and the best relationship that I've had with money so far. So at this point, I don't need to make $10,000 a month to be happy, or to attract girls, to be confident, to be in a social state, to have my dream life. I don't need to get to $10,000 a month, But if I get to $10,000 a month as a natural progression in my career, I'm not gonna shit on the money. It's okay, but I don't need it to be those other things. Now my approach to money is that contrary to what I thought before, I don't need to be like Charlie Morgan, who's a creator that I watch a lot. I don't need to be like Charlie Morgan, who wants to be a billionaire. Nor do I shit on money and just say, guys, let's just buy used things. Let's just live in a cheap apartment. Let's just live in a cheap area in the neighborhood. I'm in the nice middle where I I want to make money, but I'm not a this is like this is a good term. I'm not a Jew. I'm not Jew maxing, right? I know it's important and it's gonna come, and it's going to increase my lifestyle. But it's okay if it's not right now. It's gonna be like a nice thing for me to achieve, but it's not going to guarantee me the things that I truly want in my life, which is friends, romantic relationships, social confidence, family, happiness. Money is not gonna guarantee me that, but it could be good for improving my lifestyle. That's pretty much it. So now in my daily routine, what I'm doing is I'm spending a quite sizable amount on my career, developing myself, to make money in sales. This is my career, but I'm not seeing this as I need to make money as soon as possible. I am drawing a hard line on the importance that money has in my life, and I'm going for other things like my fitness, spending time with my loved ones, my family, with my girlfriends, being someone who can make friends anywhere he goes, and just living the best life I can possibly be living, And we all heard all the time that money doesn't buy happiness. And I always heard that. But this is the first time that I truly learned from wisdom, from experience, not from something that somebody told me, but actual experience and wisdom, that money isn't a savior, but it isn't the enemy either.